let's look at it this way. Tell me you're corrupt. Tell me you've done backdoor deals without telling me. Changing the law so no one can investigate you. Hey everybody, and welcome back. So I think Doug Ford has done something real bad in terms of scandalous, maybe law breaking. That he's going so far to actually change the law so that he cannot be investigated. And what I mean by that is he's changing the law so the Freedom of Information Act no longer applies to him, his government, or anybody is a minister or their assistant. So let's give a little bit of a history. So back in January of this year, Global News has requested Doug Ford's personal phone. The reason why they want his personal phone is because he uses it at work. So as a public figure, anything, any records, any information, as a citizen can request freedom of information. Okay. We want to see what's going on. We want to see the records. We want to see any communication, who they've been talking to and everything else. And we have a right to know because they represent us. They work for us. It's like your boss coming into your office and asking to see your work. You have no right to tell him to kick rocks. He's your boss. He pays your salary. It's the same thing with the ministers, the premiers, and everybody in office. They work for us, and we have a right to see what they're working on, especially to make sure, for transparency, that they have our best interests in us or for us, that they're not making shady deals just for them and their friends. So back in January, Global News said he's using it for work, which he openly, publicly gives out his personal number to make sure constituents, business leaders, and so on and so forth can call him anytime. Doug Ford doesn't want to give out that information. Why? You want people to call you. You gave out the number. You use it for work. It's now part of the citizen's right to see that records. And he's fighting it. If you didn't want your personal, I can understand there's personal calls you don't want out in the public, like maybe certain things that have nothing to do with the citizens of Ontario. That's fine. You can give it over. They can go through the information and they can retract anything that has nothing to do with the running of Ontario. But he knows that he won't be able to use that argument for a lot of things he's trying to hide. So they're still fighting it. He's not able, he doesn't want to give it out and so on and so forth, but he's going to lose that case. So his next step is to change the law so he doesn't have to, because this change in the freedom of information is going to be retroactive. So the lawsuit or the filings for this, for Global News and other organizations, not just Global News, it's other people as well, that will be thrown out of court. This is what's going to happen with the new law or the updated Freedom of Information Act. Once enacted, the new law will mean that records of the premier, cabinet ministers, parliamentary assistants, and their offices will no longer be subject to the Freedom of Information laws. Members of the public could still request records held by public servants in government ministries. You basically handcuffed everybody from getting any information whatsoever. Anything in the office, anything to do with the prime minister, the ministers, anything else is now off limits. How much smoke is coming from this new law? If you just put the Liberals, NDP, the PCs, just take that title out. If you said the government doesn't want you no longer to have access to the freedom of information that they have, because we're going to get into it. There's no valid reasons, but they're telling you no longer have the right to see what they're doing. You're going to say scandal. You're going to say they're corrupt. Put the Liberals in there. Every conservative will say corruption, freedom, truckers, whatever, the MAGA, Maple MAGA. You'll scream all that. Well, we're doing the same thing. This is not right. It doesn't matter what party you're a part of. we have a right to that information. Especially Doug Ford talks about being the most transparent government in all of history of Ontario, which sounds like someone we know from the South that spouts the same rhetoric. So let's hear what their reasoning is. So Stephen Crawford, who's the Public and Business Service Delivery and Procurement Minister, that's a long title, stated the methods of communications were very different 40 years ago when this was enacted. We did not have smartphones. We did not have cyber threats. We didn't have cloud computing. I mean, when this legislation was written, it was 10 years before the Spice Girls were a thing. So that's how long ago this legislation was written. It didn't contemplate the modern world that we live in today. What does that have to do with us having access to any information within the offices, within those ministers, within those prime minister or premier? Sorry, not prime minister, premier. Maybe you could update it that we have access to cloud computing, any offsite information, servers, things like that. I can understand. Any tablets that are not within the office, but you used it during work hours, like what's going on with Doug Ford's phone number, personal phone number. If Doug Ford didn't want his personal phone number to be part of this, he shouldn't be using it for work, and he should have a dedicated phone for his office, which I'm pretty sure he does. But he wanted to give the illusion that he's a man of the people, but he wants to hide all his secrets. Also, listen to this one, what they're also changing in the law. The province will also lengthen Freedom of Information response time from 30 calendar days to 45 business days, which equals 63 calendar days. So 2 months. You should be able to have access with today's technology. It's not paperwork. It's all digital. Within a week, a couple days, 24 hours, you should have access to that material. With searches, with digital, everything on a computer, there should be no time. I could understand back in the day when everything was in files, stored in a secure location. You can't just hand over a file because there might be other information that was not requested. You don't want to, I understand maybe something security, they have authorization, so on and so forth. So you needed time to separate the information, what was requested and what was mixed in with that file. But these days, again, with computers, technology, there should be no reason why you should extend that timeline. Even the 30 calendar days original is still too long. They also went on to say, he said, the move to shield cabinet from record requests is in line with most other provinces in the country as well as the federal government. Okay, so what? The federal government's wrong for that. They should have access to everything unless it's high security. Same thing with other provinces. Should have access to everything. The people should have access to everything if they're requested, except for something that's high security. Just because everybody else is doing something wrong doesn't mean we should elevate ourselves to those other people. Listen to this one from the Green Party. Made a great point. Not even President Donald Trump has changed the Freedom of Information laws in the U.S., despite being all over the Epstein files. That's a great point. Even Donald Trump, that corrupt, knuckle-dragging mouth breather, that's the disaster for society, freedoms, everything else, hasn't even changed the Freedom of Information Act on their side. That's a low bar, and they're not even able to surpass that. That tells you how bad or potentially bad this information could be that's on his personal phone or the records for his personal phone. It could be a number of things, okay? Maybe a continuation of the green belts, more information on the scandal of that. The ongoing tire recycling issue that they're having, where the Ontario government reduced the number of tires that the manufacturers are responsible to take back. So now tires are being piled up everywhere, tire shops, landfills, and everything else. GFL getting the contract to collect the recyclables in Ontario. Why did he move it from municipalities? And, backdoor deal on that. The new Ontario Science Center. What about that one? Brand new building, 400,000 square feet, which is 100,000 square feet less than the original one. Going to cost Ontario $1 billion over 30 years. That includes building a new facility plus the maintenance. That's no different than the cost of the old one. If they had fixed it up, brought it up to current standards, and continued operating it. And it's a smaller one at the Ontario place. Backdoor deal there. $1 billion is a lot of money over 30 years. What about the spa in Ontario place? Could be issues there. Cutting back on OSAP. Taking away those grants so students have to borrow more. But not only that, now they have to borrow more money on top of that because he's allowed the universities and colleges to increase their tuition. Backdoor deal. Billy Bishop Islands and the airport that they have there. Taking over that, going to increase it, spend who knows countless hundreds of millions, billions of dollars to facilitate bigger planes for the island, for the convenience of whoever. Tell me, let's look at it this way. Tell me you're corrupt. Tell me you've done backdoor deals without telling me. Changing the law so no one can investigate you or get the information to investigate you. Because we can make all the accusations we want, but if we don't have the information, the proof, it'll be just accusations. So he's limited us to get that information. It's almost like telling police, figure out the crime, but you can't check out the crime scene. You can't ask anybody questions. You can't do any investigation, but figure out who killed that person. This is so blatantly corrupt. It's blowing my mind. Blowing my mind how this is not all over the news right now. How people are not up in arms to say, what the hell are you doing? But a lot of people are right. He's corrupt. And he's making sure that no one can find out. Anyways, that's it for me. Let me know what you think. Leave in the comments if I missed something. Or if you're such a, believer in government that you trust them so much. I guess let me know why this change in that law, in the Freedom of Information Act, makes sense to you. Anyways, guys, take care. We'll talk later.